Yesterday we talked about biomes. We've already learned about soil. The number one factor determining an area's biome or its soil development is its climate. We have learned that climate is really two variables, precipitation and temperature. And we take 30 years worth of data. We compile that, and that's the climate. I am showing you something called a climatogram. So we've got multiple sets of data plotted on one graph. The key for precipitation is on the left. And precipitation is going to be the bar graph in this case. So it's showing us the average monthly rainfall for the time period 1971 to 2000, 30 years of data. And this is for Indianapolis. We can make a climatogram for any location that we have the data for. Now on the right hand, they've got temperature. Temperature is plotted on this particular graph with a line. And you can see that the summer months, June, July, and August, are the hottest. And then of course we reach much lower temperatures in January and December. So we have a bell curve for seasonal temperatures. Pretty simple, right? So here's the catch. The catch is that anytime you are presented one of these graphs, you need to stop before you rush into it, and you need to check which side is which. Sometimes they switch them. They put temperature on the left, precipitation on the right. You also need to check the units. One of the cool things about climatograms is you can kind of glance at it and very quickly understand what biome you're looking at. Look at the one on the left. We've got almost zero precipitation. And we have a very flexible temperature range. It gets warm and cold throughout the year, but the lowest it ever gets is 10 degrees, and it gets way up to 30 degrees Celsius. So this is hot. This is telling us that it's hot and very little moisture. Which biome would that be?
A desert.
That's most likely a desert. Good job. The one on the right, we see very little fluctuation. It's almost always hot. Well, that's telling me that's down near the equator. And oh my gosh, that's a lot of precipitation and very steady throughout the whole year. Where is it hot and they get constant precipitation?
Rainforest.
The rainforest. Fantastic. See how easy this is? So you don't even have to go that deep usually to say, oh, I recognize what biome that is. Now it gets tricky when you're looking at grassland versus forest, because they're pretty similar. Even desert and savanna can have very similar conditions. So it doesn't always give you the answer. Taiga and tundra are going to look a lot alike because they're very close to each other. If I have you look at diagram A and B, and I ask you which one is probably closer to the ocean. And we talked about the southern hemisphere and how it has more water, right? And what that does to our climate. So the correct answer would be A. A has a more regulated temperature. It doesn't heat up as much and it doesn't cool down as much. The ocean helps narrow that range. Okay, a great example of that would be Indianapolis versus Miami, Florida. Right? Miami gets really hot in the summer. Let's say, I'll be conservative. Let's say 100 degrees. And what does Miami get on its coldest days? Do they ever get freezing? Probably not, but maybe 1-2 days a year. Let's be conservative again, say they do. So 30 degrees is their low. So what is their range? 100 to 30. Their range is about 70 degrees, right? Now in Indiana, do we ever hit 100 degrees? It happens, but we'll be conservative. Let's say 90, even though we definitely go above that. And how cold do we get? Do we ever get negative? Sure. Let's just say, let's say 0 to be conservative. Look at that. Our range, because we're landlocked, our range is 90 degrees. Miami's is only about 70. So because they're near the ocean, they don't flex as much. So I can tell from the temperature line, this is by the ocean, and this is probably in the middle of the continent. Now look at C. Would anybody like to tell me what's going on at C? And how does that give us a clue as to its location?
Southern Hemisphere?
The southern hemisphere, because their seasons are opposite, right? So if you have a bell curve, it's northern hemisphere usually. And if it dips in the middle of the climatogram, it's probably southern hemisphere. So once again, some quick clues that you can look at to help you assess the biome or the location on Earth. This is a really cool website. The first thing it has is biomes, and you can click on it. It gives you descriptions. You can click anywhere on the globe, and it'll pull up the climatogram. You can search by location. I typed Indianapolis, and here is our most recent climatogram. Okay, so you can spin the globe around and go to any biome or climate you want. But I wanted to show you, if you push this button up here, you can switch to different features. You can look at precipitation, temperature, whatever. I like this anthromes. Okay, so we know what biomes means, right? It means life spheres. That's a biome, a life sphere. What's anthrome? Well, anthropology or anthropogenic refers to humans and human impacts. So if we look at the United States and we look at 1700, look at this. Most of the United States was what we call wildlands, forests, no human interaction. Semi-natural would mean that explorers and Native Americans had cultivated or been in these areas. Now, 100 years later, look what happens to the United States. By 1800, we've got colonies that have turned it into croplands, and we'll even, if you zoom in, there'd even be some villages. We have the Industrial Revolution by the 1850s in Europe, and it starts to make its way to the United States. In 1900, look how the Midwest and Great Plains changed. We had all that forest and untouched land, and boom, by 1900, we've cut all that down and we've turned it into farms. By 2000, oh my gosh, there went all that forested land in the United States. We're now using it to raise animals, crops, all of this stuff. And we've got major cities dotting all over the United States. So a huge change from 1700 to 2000 in how we use the land. Once again, you can go back to biomes, and like I said, you can click on descriptions. You can pull up any biome you want. You want to go up and look at northern Alaska, the tundra, the North Slope. Trump wants to drill for oil there. Anywhere around the world you desire. Pretty cool. You can pull up a city. All right, so I've given you that link on Canvas, and then you have another little quiz today. Just a handful of questions, some matching, and those can be tricky. So you have to get it all right or it's wrong. So take your time on that. I've given you 2 attempts. So if you miss some the first attempt, please go back. Look to see what you got wrong. Go back and get a perfect score the second time. I will take the average of your scores to give you a better chance at scoring points. All right, so that's it. You can play on the website if you desire, and then do the Canvas quiz. And I'll see you tomorrow.